Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport. And Jacques Nienaber has just announced his side to take on Scotland in the second test of the Springbok outgoing tour in the Autumn Nations Series. A couple of changes to the side, and it's a very interesting one at fly half, with Alton Jantjies being backed to start a test for the first time since that Argentina test down in Quebec back in August, with Andre Pollard on the bench for this weekend. Apart from that, WILLIE has come into the side as well, and JC Creel has kept his spot despite a bit of a hit and miss performance a bit last weekend, but the pack remains the same, with except for Franco Mostert, who comes in ahead of Lourdes Diago. So a couple of rotations there, but before we go through the full side and see exactly what is happening in terms of the side and what sort of the permutations are for the side, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. On the back of beating Wales last weekend, I think, the Springboks, we said almost before the tour that this was always going to be the test where we could rotate if we wanted to. Not so much because Scotland are a lesser team or any worse than England or Wales, because I think that, if we look back at the Six Nations, Scotland have been on the upward rise under Gregor Townsend for quite a while. They play a very nice brand of rugby. They beat Australia over the weekend. They are a very, very good side. In fact, I don't think there's massive difference between the three opposition that Springboks play, apart from the fact that Wales have quite a few injuries. But Scotland being the second test, for example, means, you always wanted to make sure you get off to a strong start in the tour. So I think we were always going to name a very strong side against Wales. There's obviously a lot more sort of rivalry and sort of side battles when we're going into England. Obviously, the first game since the 2019 Rugby World Cup. So definitely don't want to sort of risk losing that game. So if there's one game where, the Springbok could probably try and rotate and maybe give a couple of opportunities, was always going to be the Scotland game. Expected to be a much more open game. Scotland play a much sort of more open brand of rugby than the likes of Wales. With Finn Russell at number 10, they do like to run around the park. They do like to keep ball in hand and shift. They've got some very powerful players in the likes of Duane van der Merwe, for example. And definitely will be a South African sort of flavour to the Scottish side this weekend. But at the end of the day, it's kind of this continuous juggling act of trying to make sure you win as many test matches as possible, as well as trying to sort of build depth and trying to sort of see where your sort of squad lies. And in trying to do that, this is the team that Jacques Nienaber and his coaching staff have named. No changes up front. Oxenchair, Bongi Manambi, Trevor Nyakane. Very well-revered journalist Paul Williams over the weekend was saying that Springboks could well have the best two front rows in the same team, because there really is no difference between the likes of Oxenchair, Bongi Manambi, Trevor Nyakane, as well as the replacement front row of Malcolm Marx, Stephen Kitsoff, and Vincent Koch. It is probably the biggest weapon in the Springboks arsenal at the moment is this front row, and they've been so terrific at scrum time. Eben Etzebeth gets a new lock partner. Franco Mostert comes into the side. Hopefully, after a bit of rest and stuff like that, he'll be back to his sort of usual self. Looked a little bit tired, which is uncharacteristic of him. And towards the latter stages of the Rugby Championship, he's been such an important player, though, for the Springboks throughout this year. Was probably one of the best players in the entire British and Irish Lions series, and really has become a major part of the side. This weekend will be his 50th test. So good to see somebody who's got such a high work rate getting up to 50 tests. We have so much experience between Lourdes Diago, who got his 50th test earlier this year, Franco Mostert, Eben Etzebeth could very well be a Centurion by this time next year. Siya Kolisi, Kwagga Smith, Duane Vermeulen, this loose trio is looking so good at the moment, and it's quite scary when you think that former World Player of the Year Pieter-Steph du Toit still needs to come into this loose trio, because Kwagga Smith is becoming quite indispensable to the Springboks in the last sort of 3 games. Both those All Blacks games and the game against Wales, I thought it was absolutely terrific. Siya Kolisi, once again last weekend, I think Siya Kolisi has probably been the best Springbok player this year in terms of just consistently putting in some brilliant performances. And then Duane Vermeulen, what more do you need to say? Herschel Jantjies is continued to be backed, and I wonder how much this comes down to the combination that he's going to have with Alton Jantjies, because I think that if we're being very honest, I thought Herschel Jantjies struggled last weekend. His kicking game let him down at times, and unfortunately it's not his natural game, is it? We know Herschel Jantjies is somebody who's very instinctive, very explosive, likes to snipe in and around the ruck, and I think that 2 reasons. First of all, I think that that the combination with Alton Jantjies is a very nice one. I think those two, they've got a very special bond. They're very close, and I think that will help. But I also think a game that is as open and as fast as this weekend will be, it will sort of play into the hands of Herschel Jantjies. The Scottish defence isn't quite as sort of compact and well structured as the Welsh defence. So if there are going to be gaps that he can try and exploit and do what he does best, Scotland will be the game where he can do that. Now, Alton Yankees, somebody who needs a chance at the end of the day. Whether you're an Alton Yankees fan or not, he's the second choice flower for the Springboks, and he's been putting in some very good performances in a Bok jersey this year. He was very good in that SAA versus Bulls game. He was very good against Argentina, and he had a very nice cameo against All Blacks when we beat them. So he's been very much overdue a start. And again, I think, the fast-paced nature and the potential openness of this weekend will play into his hands. And I really do think that if the Boks do want to keep it a little bit more ball in hand, there's nobody better to try and get the devastating players of Damon Delendi, Makazole Mapimpi into gaps than Alton Yankees. Makazole Mapimpi continues the number 11 jersey. Should have been on the trial scoring sheet last weekend. Very much up to debate that trial. But then the two-center combination, Damon Delendi, Lekanya you're not going to change anything. Lekanya is just a terrific form at the moment. Such an intelligent player, understands the game so well, just reads very well, and he's become so important. He's kind of becoming like a Jacques Fourie in terms of the way it's often what he does. He's doing off the ball in terms of the way he can see what's developing in front of him, the way he can communicate. A very, very smart player is Lekanya. Jesse Creel gets another opportunity at 14, which is kind of a surprise. A lot of people expecting Spoon Corsi to get a go, but I don't think Spoon Corsi has trained that much with the Springboks. I think he was available for selection. And also, we're talking a little bit about this in our live show last night. It's difficult for a Jesse Creel who hasn't played much rugby this year to come in and have an electrifying performance. So I'm glad that he is given another chance. I don't think he played particularly well last weekend. I think, they targeted him quite a lot under the high ball, and he didn't get much opportunity with ball in hand. Spoon Corsi's definitely, got the run of him in the 14 jersey. But if you want to see if Jesse Creel can do it when you've got to give him at least, 1 or 2 games to actually do it. In the absence of Damien Willemse, who is injured, WILLIE has been recalled into the side. No Apelele Fassi this weekend, which will frustrate a lot of fans. A lot of people calling for Apelele Fassi, and I personally probably would have gone and left Mapimpi out and given him a rest and got an Apelele Fassi on the left wing. I don't think Apelele Fassi doesn't really, I don't think he's ever played, hasn't really played in the right wing much, if ever. Obviously, at fullback is sort of his natural position at Sharks, but I do think, especially the way the Springboks play their rugby, that it is quite a big ask to slot in at fullback, and somebody who hasn't been there for as long and has only got 2 test matches. I think the Springbok coaching staff are quite hesitant to put him there. So WILLIE starts back into 15, and if he's having another mare like he did against the All Blacks, then Frans Steyn is on the bench. The bench is Malcolm Mark, Stephen Kitsoff, Vincent Kakhlua, Diago drops onto the bench. Kobus Reynolds will come off the bench, as well as Andre Pollard and Frans Steyn, so plenty of experience coming off there, and they should have enough to try and see off a game. I think this will be a game where, we've been chasing most games the entire year. We've had so many last-minute victories, but the one game where we sort of did manage to stamp our authority was against Argentina. So I'm hoping that, I think that Herschel and Alton Yankees combination, if they can come good this weekend, I'm hoping we can try and get ahead. And we've very much got the players to see out a game at the end, in terms of being on Pollard. He's got a very much better tactical kicking game and very solid defensively. Frans Steyn with that boot of his. I think they will probably be very good in terms of coming on and be able to finish it again. Jasper Wiese gets not again against ahead of Marco van Staden. Also one a bit surprising. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Marco van Staden get an opportunity next weekend. Let me know what you think of the side down in the comments below. Smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We will be live for this game this weekend. We're trying to hit to 10,000 subscribers. We've got less than 1,100 to go. So please do smash like if you subscribe. We can try and get to 9,000 subscribers by this weekend. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.